You're standing on a cliff. It's 70,000 years ago. You spent your entire life in the same forest, the same trees, the same rivers, the same sky every morning. But today, you walked further than you've ever walked before. And then you stopped. Because in front of you is something that doesn't make sense. Water. But not like any water you've ever seen. It goes forever. The horizon swallows it. It moves on its own, pushing, pulling, breathing. It makes a sound you've never heard, a roar that never stops. And the smell, sharp, heavy, alive, hits you like a wall. You have no word for what you're seeing. You have no concept of ocean, no maps, no sailors, no stories from anyone who came before you. No human in your entire lineage has ever stood where you're standing. You are the first. So what do you do? What do you think? What do you feel? When your brain, built for forests and grasslands and predators, tries to understand something this massive, this alive, this completely outside everything it has ever known? The answer is one of the most fascinating things scientists have ever uncovered about the human mind. For most of human prehistory, our ancestors lived deep inland. They followed rivers. They hunted in forests and open grasslands. The ocean wasn't a destination. It wasn't even a concept. It was simply beyond the edge of the known world. But around 164,000 years ago, something shifted. At a site called Pinnacle Point in South Africa, archaeologists discovered one of the most important finds in human history. A cave carved into a cliff face sitting directly above the sea. Inside, evidence of early humans eating shellfish, mussels, barnacles, sea snails, burned and cracked open deliberately by human hands. This wasn't accidental. These people didn't stumble onto a beach and panic. They came back, again and again. They learned the tides. They knew when the rocks would be exposed and when they'd be underwater. They had developed a relationship with the ocean. But here's the question that keeps scientists up at night. How did they first react? Because this wasn't gradual. The ocean doesn't ease you in. You don't discover it slowly. You walk through trees, you crest a hill, and then it's just there, all at once, infinite, moving, roaring. Dr. Curtis Marian, the archaeologist who led the Pinnacle Point excavation, described what early humans must have experienced as cognitive shock. A moment where the brain encounters something so outside its reference points that it has to build entirely new categories just to process it. Think about that. Your brain right now has a mental model for a large body of water. You learned it as a child. You've seen photos, videos, maybe visited one yourself. The ocean fits into a category you already had. Ancient humans had no category. None. The ocean was not a bigger version of a river. It was not a flooded lake. It was a completely alien thing, and their brains had to figure out what it was, from scratch. Here's where it gets genuinely strange. Human brains are not built to process infinity. We're built for scale, the scale of a forest, a savanna, a river valley. Our visual system evolved to track predators at 50 meters, not horizons at 50 kilometers. Our threat detection system knows what a cave lion looks like. It does not know what to make of something that goes on forever and never stops moving. Research in cognitive anthropology suggests that when ancient humans encountered something this far outside their experience, their brains did what human brains always do when they can't explain something. They invented an explanation, and almost universally, across cultures with no contact with each other, that explanation was the same. The ocean was alive, not metaphorically, literally alive. A creature, a being, a god. The ancient Sumerians called the ocean Tiamat, a living dragon whose body the world was carved from. The Norse believed the ocean was the blood of Ymir, the first giant. Pacific Island cultures described the sea as a god who breathed, which is exactly what it looks like when you watch waves. It inhales, it exhales. The rhythm is biological, and this wasn't stupidity. This was the brain doing exactly what it's supposed to do. When you encounter something you can't explain, you apply the closest framework you have. Ancient humans had extensive experience with one kind of thing that moved on its own, made sounds, had rhythm, responded to conditions, and could kill you without warning. Living things. So the ocean became a living thing, the most powerful living thing that had ever existed. And that single conclusion, that the ocean was alive, shaped everything that came next. How they approached it, how they used it, how they survived. But before any of that philosophical processing happened, there was the raw physical experience, and it would have been overwhelming in a way modern humans genuinely cannot replicate. We live in a world of constant sensory input, traffic, screens, air conditioning. Our brains have learned to filter out most of what they receive just to function. Ancient humans had none of that filtering. Their sensory systems were tuned to maximum sensitivity. Every sound, every smell, every movement mattered because any of them could mean a predator. Now, hit that brain with the ocean. The sound of waves at a beach can reach 70 to 80 decibels. That's louder than a busy restaurant, louder than most conversations, and it doesn't stop. For a human whose loudest regular experience was a thunderstorm or a stampede, this was sonic overload. Constant, directionless. Coming from everywhere along the horizon. The smell, salt, brine, iodine, decay, life, is chemically unlike anything that exists inland. Studies on olfactory memory show that smell is the sense most directly connected to emotional response, and a smell with no prior association, no memory to anchor it to, produces a specific neurological reaction: heightened alertness, elevated heart rate, the sense that something important is happening. Then there's the horizon. On land, even in open grassland, your view is eventually interrupted. A tree, a hill, a rock. Your visual system has reference points. On the open ocean, the horizon is a perfect unbroken line. Your depth perception, which evolved to judge distances to objects, has nothing to work with. The brain doesn't know where there is. It's disorienting in a way that modern humans only experience in sensory deprivation chambers. Early humans standing on that cliff were receiving more novel sensory information in a single minute than they might normally receive in weeks. And their response, almost certainly, was fear. Not the fear of a specific predator you can run from, something deeper. The fear of a thing that is simply too large to understand. But they didn't run. That's the thing. That's the part that tells us everything about what made humans different from every other species on this planet. They stood there, they watched, and eventually, they walked toward it.